tomorrow at Soldier Field in Chicago. Be sure to stay tuned for my preview of the game as well as a little post-game recap here from Camp Randall Stadium.
Let's go get him. Let's go get him today, man. Let's go. Hey, dominate on 3. 1, 2, 3, dominate.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another live stream. I'm here live from Camp Randall Stadium here in Wisconsin. Like I said, the San Francisco 49ers, they're facing off against the Chicago Bears tomorrow afternoon. Be sure to tune in. It's week 1. Football is finally back. And I'm here to preview the game for you guys because you guys haven't seen a lot of me this past week, obviously. So wanted to get you guys my thoughts on the game. Real quick, though, before I start, got to give a shout out to the supporters. Mariah, thank you always for tuning in, as well as Fernando, 49ers Throwback. Thank you for tuning in. I'm doing great here. The Badgers, I just finished covering this game. The Badgers lost 17-14 to Washington State, an unranked team. But enough about that for now. We got to talk about the 49ers. But before I get started, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button on this channel. I'm putting out a lot of content for you guys, for the Badgers and for the 49ers. So be sure to appreciate the content. Just give a little like, give a little subscribe, help the channel grow and help your boy out. You know what I mean? And while you're at it, be sure to subscribe to the 49ers RedZone podcast, where me and Marco will be filming episodes very, very soon following week 1. So make sure you guys don't miss out on the content. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. But let's get into it. Obviously, the biggest storylines got to follow with Trey Lance and Justin Fields. So I'm going to start with that topic. Many people think this is going to be a debate between, or like a battle between Trey Lance and Justin Fields. I'm here to debunk that rumor. Look, the 49ers can win without Trey Lance playing good. That's something that we've seen with other quarterbacks. I understand the record in general, but the 49ers don't need elite quarterback play to sustain offensive success. And the Chicago Bears, if we're being honest, the Chicago Bears aren't as good of a team as the 49ers. There aren't many areas where the 49ers are worse than the Chicago Bears currently. You can maybe bring up safety because Jimmy Ward is currently out, meaning the 49ers are starting George Odom and Talanoa Hufanga at safety. You could also talk about if you're looking at another position group, it might be tight end, but even that might be a stretch because the 49ers have capable tight ends with Ross Dwelley, Charlie Warner, and Tyler Kroft. Obviously, the Chicago Bears have young rising player Cole Kmet, the second-year tight end out of Notre Dame. But, the 49ers, seems like they've got a tactical advantage at every other position. But let's break down this matchup. Trey Lance obviously going up against the Chicago defense that no longer has Akeem Hicks, no longer has Khalil Mack, and instead stars pretty much mainly Robert Quinn and obviously Roquan Smith at linebacker. You've got young cornerbacks. Kyler Gordon is starting at cornerback on the opposite of Jalen Johnson, your second-year cornerback, a guy who made pretty significant strides in his rookie year back in 2021. Then at safety, you've got two different guys as well. You've got Eddie Jackson, who did have a down season last year, not necessarily a really good year from Eddie Jackson in 2021. But you also have rookie Jaquan Brisker, who is fully healthy now, who's going to play in week 1. This is going to be an intriguing matchup because Trey Lance obviously going against players that are similar to him in terms of the experience that they've had. Trey Lance, obviously, in his second year, still, though, in my opinion, a first-year starter in the NFL. Only started 2.5 games only played in 2.5 games in 2021. I think that Trey Lance right now, this is a good way for him to get acclimated into the NFL environment, where you're not necessarily facing a significant pass rush threat. I'm not discounting the Chicago Bears. Robert Quinn obviously had 18 sacks last year. You have Al-Quahidin Muhammad also on that defensive line. You've got a couple of names there, but I think that Trey Lance will be able to kind of flourish in his role. But also, Trey Lance, look at the weapons that he has around him. You've got a strong running game with Elijah Mitchell spearheading the charge. Last year the running game ranked 7th. This year you have additional depth. How much that depth will play, we don't know at the moment, but we have additional depth on the team right now. I think that is important for the 49ers, especially if injuries do happen to the running backs, right? You talk about Jeff Wilson Jr., a guy who spearheaded the charge before. You talk about his 126 carry, 600-yard season back in 2020 when injuries occurred to the top running backs of Raheem Mostert, Matt Breida, whoever else, Tevin Coleman, the guys that were on the team back in 2020. And now you've got him as your number 2 running back. On top of that, you've got Jordan Mason, the preseason standout, who has shown that he can be capable, really, to play in an NFL style offense. That was what he played at in Georgia Tech. It's a pretty good offense over there in Georgia Tech in terms of relation to the NFL. And Jordan Mason, he's a one-cut runner and he runs downfield. That's important. Whereas other running backs, particularly Trey Sermon, has struggled to do that in their early NFL careers. Then you've got Tyron Davis-Price, a bruising back who, while he still right now is relatively raw, he's a guy who you know that has the acceleration, which means that he could shoot through the gap on inside zone, and he also has the power. You've seen him lower the shoulder, lay the boom on defenders in the preseason. That is something that he's going to add to this offense as well. Now, do I know the carry distribution necessarily among the running backs? Not necessarily, but it's a rainy day tomorrow in Chicago, likely, which means that the 49ers are going to face it's going to face like weather conditions, so they're going to have different like a different approach necessarily to the game. Probably a lot more running and passing, maybe a lot more zone read for Trey Lance. That means to get him a little more involved in something that he's more familiar with offensively. Now that's enough for Trey Lance for now. Let's talk about Justin Fields. Before I do, gotta give a shout out again to the rest of the crew that's tuned in. Mesa Coog, thank you for tuning in. Go Cougs, go Niners. I guess this is a Washington State fan. I don't know how many Badger fans would be happy about that. Me personally, don't really care, but yeah, go Niners. I mean, Niners are playing tomorrow. It's the first time we're seeing football, real football, obviously, since the Super Bowl. Kali, I got to give a thank you for tuning in, as well as No Border Sports, who said Debo that like button. You guys know what to do. Debo that like button, man. Stack that like button. Debo that like button. Appreciate you, No Border Sports. Zachary, thank you as well for tuning in and for the kind words. Always appreciate it. Andrew saying you've got 20 more minutes before the rain hits at Camp Randall. Well, yeah, if it's going to pour, you're going to be the first guys to see it because I think I'm going to be streaming for a little more than 20 minutes. So hopefully it doesn't ruin the stream. We'll see. You might just add a little flavor now in the sky. 49er Media, thank you as well for tuning in. But let's go back to the topic of Trey Lance and Justin Fields. Let's talk about the latter now. Justin Fields entering his second year. A lot of people right now believe that he's better than Trey Lance. Now, can we give a clear definition of as to who is better currently? I can't because Trey Lance hasn't played in an NFL game. So I'm not going to come here make bold statements that aren't substantiated by NFL game film right now. But Justin Fields struggled in his rookie year. He was a player who did have accuracy issues, one of the less accurate quarterbacks in the NFL in 2021. Additionally, Justin Fields, a guy who can utilize his legs a lot, was sacked a good amount last year. And now you're facing an offensive line that is going to likely struggle even more. You talk about an offensive line that starts Braxton Jones now, a fifth-round rookie at left tackle. You're starting Cody Whitehair, I believe, or it's either Whitehair or Patrick at left guard. You've got new players kind of all along the board. At right guard, it's Tevin Jenkins, who hasn't taken a snap at right guard so far in the NFL. He took it in the preseason, changed his position after there was a dispute between him and the team. And then at right tackle, it's Larry Borum, a guy who is probably a replacement level kind of right tackle at the moment. But overall, 49ers, defensively, that defensive line is going to be a little bit. It's not necessarily going to face a test, but it's going to be a new environment because of the weather conditions. But you've got Nick Bosa on that defensive line. You've got obviously the Maulers in the run game in Arik Armstead and Javon Kinlaw. Armstead obviously having that multifaceted ability. And then you've got Samson Ebukam, a guy who is going to be very important, in my opinion, in this game plan. Why, you may ask? Samson Ebukam is one of the better athletes on that defensive front. And what did Justin Fields do in 2021 to the 49ers to keep the game close? It was a 30-22 victory for the 49ers, probably closer than anticipated when you look back at it. But Justin Fields had 10 rushes for 102 yards, over 10 yards a carry on design plays, on scrambles, on things like that. The 49ers need to limit Justin Fields' rushing ability because that's really what could keep this game close as to breaking it far apart, both with the defense and offensive performances. So the 49ers need to find a way to neutralize Justin Fields, and how to do that? contain the edge. And to contain the edge, you need athletes that can contain the edge. Now you don't have any more DJ Jones, who obviously moved on to the Denver Broncos this past offseason. But on the edge, you have Samson Ebukam, a guy who's a pretty solid athlete and who should play a lot, especially in run defense. You've got Jordan Willis as well, a special team standout, a guy who can also play in run defense. You've got a good amount of players on this defensive line, not to mention the athletic freak in Drake Jackson, the second round pick, who we've seen him do crazy things with his body. I mean, I was at training camp. I saw him do a backflip at his weight in training camp during one of the rookie hype machines. Drake Jackson's a freak athlete as well. So, I mean, you might see all these different players utilizing different roles, be it on the interior or on the outside in general. So that's something to be excited about for sure. Now, let's move forward. Let's talk about some of the newer developments, let's say. Let's talk about the injuries the 49ers are suffering right now. Daniel Brunskill has already been ruled out. Daniel Brunskill obviously he suffered a hamstring injury, has been trying to work his way back, but is ruled out. He will be one of the inactives for the game. George Kittle is an interesting situation right now. George Kittle did not practice this week, did not practice, I believe, on Wednesday or Thursday, an indication that he likely will miss week one. And we heard a report, I forget which reporter it was from, I believe Jordan Schultz, that his week one status is in serious, serious concern necessarily. And so Kittle, he's right now a question. He's listed as questionable on the injury report, not doubtful. He reportedly was in walkthroughs today and is going to do everything that he can. Said he feels better than with a groin injury than earlier in the week. He sustained it, I believe, on Monday. He's going to do everything that he can to play, but is it in the 49ers' best interest to play George Kittle in this game? He possesses such a vital role to the offense, and the 49ers should be able to win this game without the likes of George Kittle based on their defensive performance and the rest of the assets offensively compared to a relatively inexperienced Chicago Bears defense. So to me, I don't know what the worth is of playing George Kittle and a chance to re-aggravate that injury. I saw a report from the doctor, the football doc, David Chow, who said that George Kittle is likely out for week one, and the re-aggravation, if he plays, is relatively high risk. So that's something that I do worry about with George Kittle. So to me, I don't think that George Kittle should go in week one if there's any concern about his injury. Obviously, a groin injury, you don't want that to linger on, especially come week three, come week four when the 49ers face off against the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Rams. So that's something to talk about, George Kittle's injury. I think that right now, I would say that he is probably like a 30% chance to go, given that there were positive indications today, but I don't think that he should play in week one. And that kind of leads to who's going to start at tight end. I think it's Ross Dwelley or Charlie Warner right now. But the thing is, the 49ers utilize a good amount of two tight end sets, right? In the Shanahan offense, in that personnel, be it in run blocking and play action game, in sorts of different facets. So you might see a good amount of Charlie Warner and Ross Dwelley in week one, with obviously Tyler Kroft sprinkled in to serve as a pretty serviceable backup over there. He was the fourth tight end brought in, cut after on the original 53, but signed back to the 53-man roster after the 49ers put Jimmy Ward and Curtis Robinson on IR. So that's kind of like the tight end situation. Offensive line-wise, with Daniel Brunskill out, the 49ers currently have 9 active offensive linemen. I don't expect them to carry all 9. I'd expect Nick Zakel probably to be the one odd man out. He's going to likely start as an inactive because the 49ers are only required to carry 8 if they want to carry 48 players. I think they carry 8 offensive linemen. Carry Blake Hance, the Northwestern guard, the guy that they claimed from the Cleveland Browns, who can play at several positions because you have versatility everywhere. Colton McKivitz can play tackle and can play guard. And I mean, I'll get to Colton McKivitz in a minute, but he can play tackle, he can play guard. You obviously have Jalen Moore, who can play tackle, and he's seen time at right guard as well this offseason. Now you have Blake Hance, who can play center. So you kind of have all positions covered in a way. In this 8 deep, let's say, this offensive line unit that services 8 players. But I talked about Colton McKivitz. We got to talk about another injury. Mike McGlinchey. We haven't heard much about Mike McGlinchey. It seems like the reports indicate he's going to be active for week one, but Who knows? I'm not going to make a firm decision on it until game time tomorrow when the active rosters come out. Mike McGlinchey, if he starts, that would be a huge burden relief for the 49ers, especially in Trey Lance's first start. Because Mike McGlinchey, if we're being totally honest, Mike McGlinchey is an upgrade over every other right tackle that we have currently on our roster, despite 49er fans' feelings about Mike McGlinchey. He is one of the better players on the team. So on the offensive line, he's obviously proven he is entering his fifth season now in the NFL, whereas the rest of the unit is relatively inexperienced. And it also relieves a burden off right guard Spencer Burford, who's entering his first season with the 49ers, right? And he's going to be the starting right guard, it seems. He doesn't have to worry about the right tackle. He can just worry about his own job, which is important in my opinion, given that he's now going to face his first NFL action. I think that it's important. Mike McGlinchey, to me, if he's healthy enough, he should start. But a quad injury and then the injury that he suffered after that, I believe it's a leg injury that required the PRP. The 4 week period is coming fairly close. It seems like it's like what I mean is a PRP injection normally takes about 4 to 6 weeks of recovery, likely on the shorter end of the 4 weeks. The 4 week period is coming fairly close. It didn't seem like he responded well last week, but it could be a different situation this week. So Mike McGlinchey, I think that injury will be something to watch for. Can the 49ers obviously avoid a serious issue there while also having him healthy for week one? That's a question to be asked. We'll see what happens with Mike McGlinchey. Let's talk about some other situations. Let's go ahead to the matchups to watch in the game. Now, you might be saying, Rohan, what matchups are you talking about? Aren't the 49ers favored in significant amount of these matchups? I'd say yes, but also there are certain matchups to watch because even if you're favored, that doesn't necessarily mean the entirety, like, that doesn't necessarily mean be all end all. I want to talk about some of my favorite matchups that I'm going to be watching in this game. We're first going to look at the Chicago Bears offense. The wide receiver position, they've got Darnell Mooney there, the guy who was arguably their wide receiver one last year, even with Allen Robinson in the fold. Now he's going to have a test. He's going to go against Charvarius Ward or Emmanuel Mosley on the outside. This is a matchup I'm going to continue to look at because given the strength of the 49ers cornerbacks and the inexperience of the Bears receivers, they probably start Byron Pringle, and their third starter, Velus Jones Jr., the rookie out of Tennessee, is doubtful for the game, meaning he probably won't play in week one, meaning the Bears are going to have to figure out a different situation, which all in likelihood results in Justin Fields targeting Darnell Mooney a little more. And so I think that matchup is going to be big because Darnell Mooney is going to be expected to make big plays, while Charvarius Ward or Emmanuel Mosley are also going to be expected to make big plays. So to me, I'm going to be excited to see who wins that matchup and how do the 49ers kind of combat the aerial attack of Justin Fields after seeing the film this preseason. So to me, that again, like I said, is a matchup to watch. Again, the 49ers, Bears, let's talk about the coaching staff real quick in matchups. The Bears have a new head coach. The Bears have a new offensive coordinator. They hired Luke Getsy from the Green Bay Packers while hiring Matt Eberflus from the Indianapolis Colts to serve as their head coach. They're going to have a new system in a way with Luke Getsy over there. This is going to be a new test, different than last year. We'll see the dividends of what Luke Getsy's offensive outlook appears to be tomorrow. But again, new system. I think that this matchup here between Mooney and the top cornerbacks, it's essentially Mooney versus Mooney because Charvarius Ward's nickname is Mooney. It's going to be Mooney versus Mooney. I want to see which Mooney comes out on top. Some other matchups to watch to me are Trey Lance against the inexperienced cornerbacks for the Chicago Bears. Trey Lance, like we mentioned earlier, right? His first real NFL action as a full-time starter for the 49ers. And then you look at the Chicago Bears defense, you got Kyler Gordon there. You've got Jaquan Brisker there. You've got Jalen Johnson, who, I mean, he's in his second year, relatively inexperienced, although obviously he had a good amount of time. I think that's important to note. Eddie Jackson really is that only starter of the four that has full NFL experience, and it seems like he's as as bad as I don't want to say it. It seems like he's on the decline of his NFL career right now after last season. Hopefully, he has a rejuvenated season, but it seems as if that's the truth. So the 49ers obviously probably going to look to exploit that, especially trying to get open receivers for Trey Lance. especially because it's going to be likely a rainy game, which means you want to get open looks. You don't want to necessarily test out the weather too much and put yourself in situations that could injure your players or could also make it tough on your quarterback. I expect a solid amount of play action tomorrow, solid amount of zone read tomorrow. But like I said, a hell of a lot of running. That's what I want from Trey Lance and the offense in general. So to me, 49ers offense, they've got to keep it moving. Got to be consistent. Like I said with Jack Hammer earlier this week on his show, got to be consistent. Got to keep it moving, and that's another matchup to watch: Trey Lance versus that Chicago Bears secondary. My third and final matchup to watch is going to be Roquan Smith versus this running game. Roquan Smith obviously is a catalyst of that defense. He's one of the better players on that defense in general, but he's one player. How big of an impact can Roquan Smith have, especially against this 49ers running game when getting to that second level? 49ers, like I said, are likely going to run a ton tomorrow, which means Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson Jr., all these guys are going to get involved. Roquan Smith is now charged with the task of stopping that rushing game as much as he can by himself, given that he is that middle linebacker over there for the team. So to me, that's another factor. Can Roquan Smith help slow down this 49ers offense on the ground, or will Roquan Smith's efforts just not be enough given that he's only one player? That's my third and final matchup to watch in today's game. Drop your guys' matchups to watch in the game as well down below in the chat. Andrew here says that Mitchell and Jeff Wilson Jr. should split carry 60-40. Wilson was underutilized. I think that this is a fine split. I also think that I'd like to get the other two backs involved a little bit more as well, just to test it out and to see the different styles of running backs. Give opposing defenses a little more scare because the 49ers can be versatile with their running backs. No Border Sports says that George Kittle should rest the first 2 weeks. Would not be opposed to that because of the injuries that George Kittle has sustained and because the 49ers face their hugest test of the early part of the season in week 3 against the Denver Broncos and in week 4 against the Rams. So that is an important matchup to me. Ooh, we got a good one here from 49er Media who says Brandon Ayuk versus Jalen Johnson. This is going to be a very interesting matchup. Brandon Ayuk, Jalen Johnson, the battle of the 2021 drafted corner, 2020 drafted corner and receiver. Johnson was drafted by the Bears in the second round. It was in the second round. Ayuk obviously in the first round. So that is going to be an interesting matchup for sure. Ayuk and Johnson both should be fairly improved. Johnson was playing with the twos earlier this offseason with Matt Eberflus under wing, but it seems like he's locked in as cornerback 1 there. That's going to be a very, very interesting matchup as well. Rick Diaz here says, welcome to the city of Chicago. Welcome to Soldier Field. You're not too far away from where I live. Thank you also for the good job and the kind compliments, Rick. Hopefully you're doing well as well. 91649ers asks, where am I? Currently, I am on the field here at Camp Randall Stadium in Wisconsin. I just covered the Wisconsin Badgers and the Washington State Cougars. The Badgers and the Cougars just finished their game a couple hours ago. I am on the field here doing my live stream before I pack on up for the night. So I am out here at Camp Randall Stadium in Madison, Wisconsin. Moving forward with the 49ers talk about the offensive game plan. Now, Kyle Shanahan, obviously, it's been an interesting conundrum, right? We talk about Kyle Shanahan. Everybody talks about, oh, my God, he's got this package for Trey Lance, but he's not released it yet. He wants to release it in the regular season. Well, the regular season is here, guys, which means that we might see the package that Kyle Shanahan has for Trey Lance. Maybe not in week 1 necessarily, the entire arsenal of it, but week 2, I want to see what Kyle Shanahan kind of has dialed up for Trey Lance in general. So, yeah, Trey Lance, Kyle Shanahan, the Trey Lance package, when I talk about it, I don't necessarily only mean passing plays. I want to see the zone read where Trey Lance is able to accurately make the correct decision based on the pulling edge rusher, based on the defensive look. I want to see a lot more of that because it gives Trey Lance an ability, or at least the chance, to be in his element in the kind of part that he is a little more comfortable with. So to me, that's what I want to see. But offensively, I also, like I said earlier, want to see them pound the ball, just continue to run the ball in general. So to me, I do not mind if you have, 11 personnel, you got 2 receivers out, 9 kind of in that box area offensively. I do not mind if you see those packages, be it play action, be it straight running. I want to see the 49ers run the football and utilize their dominance on the ground with both their receivers and the left side of their offensive line with Trent Williams. That's going to be I think, a benefit for them. And I think they have a better offensive line than the Bears for sure, given Trent Williams is there, given Mike McGlinchey is there. I want to see them utilize it in the running game and continue to kind of have an offensive outlook, right? You talk about the defense. Obviously, the defense has been locked down for the 49ers, but I want to see consistency on both sides of the football. I want to see the 49ers be able to move the ball in general offensively. When you flash back to training camp, right? Trey Lance and the 49ers offense, they were able to move the ball well in the move the ball period and the 2-minute drill. They weren't necessarily able to do it in the non-situational periods. Now you got 60 minutes of that move the ball of real game situations, obviously, with game one on the line. I want to see, can Trey Lance take what he had in those situations and bring it to the field come week one? Can he really be able to move the ball offensively? Didn't necessarily have the best effort in doing that in week 3 against the Houston Texans, albeit against a worse offensive line. I want to see improvement from that game and kind of what we saw in training camp in those situations overall. All right. Guys, I think that is going to wrap it up for me here. Talked about everything I wanted to talk about. 49ers play football tomorrow. The 49ers obviously facing off against the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field. Should be a fun game, obviously, between the two quarterbacks, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, two quarterbacks with the ability to threaten downfield with their legs. So that's something that I want to see done more. And to me, yeah, 49ers looking like it's going to be a fun week one matchup. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Before I exit, Jay Aguayo here asking how is the weather? Is forecast still showers tomorrow? In Chicago, I do believe that the forecast will be showers and windy. Those are the two things. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to this channel and the 49ers Red Zone channel. We're working hard to give you guys the amount of content that we can give you guys in a daily basis or more so on a weekly basis. But appreciate all of you. 49er game day tomorrow. Let's see if I end up doing a live stream after the game or later in the week. Appreciate all of you for tuning in on this fine Saturday evening. Have a great day.